Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Cloudcast episode 141, our most anticipated games of 2024. I'm Steve Tudor.
Oh, I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill.
I'm Rory Summers, and believe it or not, chaps, my shortlist is 30 games long.
That is not a short list, Rory. You've done an Andy there. Not even my list is that long, mate.
but there is a little bit of crossover. But
little bit.
I've had quite a slow day, so I've spent most of the day on Board Game Geek looking for games.
Is this your first day back at work after New Year and Christmas as well?
Don't be silly. Would I possibly just announce that I spent the whole day on Board Game Geek while I was at work? No.
That would be very unprofessional.
I think what I like most about your list, Rory, is not only is it a list, it is a fully formatted, tabulated, with additional metadata list.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. External links, table formatting.
Yeah. Notes, pictures.
I think I've handed in worse homework.
No, you haven't, Sid. We know you haven't.
I've aspired to, Steve. I've aspired to.
Oh, good grief.
No, I find it's a nice way to structure and get my thoughts down on a page about what I'm excited about.
This is the best bit, and this is behind the curtain for the listeners. What Rory's also done is left several blank sections for the rest of us to fill in, and the three rest of us have filled in nothing. We haven't had a single game to this list, mainly because what we've actually done is just put like the name of the game in a bullet-pointed list.
But to be fair, right, there's only a finite number of games, and Rory, having spent all day whilst not working, I don't even know anymore. Multitasking has collated all the games that we would have put all the metadata against into his spreadsheet. He's already done it for us. There was nothing for us to do.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's done, yeah.
I call it efficiency.
Yes.
So do I. That's what I call it.
So we don't have to.
Exactly that.
But no, I'm excited for this year. There's some really good games coming out this year.
You see, are you? Because I'm not.
Well,
because I went on my usual little hunt and I've tried to draw up a decent list of what I was looking forward to, mostly in the RPG world. And I was really disappointed.
Oh.
Really disappointed. And I think it's mostly because I'm still waiting for stuff from last year. Yeah, and therefore, there's not a whole lot of excitement for what's coming out this year. And then what is coming out all just seems a bit beige.
Really?
I have to admit, I was looking at, because I backed the recent Electric State RPG from Free League, and it doesn't usually take them that long to churn these things out, but I noticed it's not due until 2025.
There seems to be a big slowdown, I don't know. I'd be interested to see what's happening with the bigger board games, because I don't really know that space as well as you guys, but there's not a lot of... I didn't see a lot of buzz about a lot of new stuff.
No?
I could admit, I'm not going to say I struggle to add games to my list. I've got enough games to talk about, but they're a bit of obvious choices for me. And I looked for this. I mean, to be fair, Roy, you have found some games that I find intriguing that I did not know about. And you've also reminded me of a couple of games that I didn't realise were coming out this year. But I was really struggling to find extra stuff that I wasn't already aware of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I already knew what was in my wheelhouse, which was 2 or 3 games. And then beyond that, I was a bit worried that I'm not waiting on any big Kickstarters. I mean, we talked a few times in the past, all of us. We seem to be backing less Kickstarters or Game Founds, whatever you want to call it at the moment. And my actual to-be-fulfilled list is getting smaller and smaller. It's definitely down to single digits, well, beyond single digits. I think it's less than 5 now, which is quite impressive.
It is quite low.
Yeah, considering at one point, we were waiting for, 10, 15 games at one point,
See, I had the other problem there. See, I started doing my research yesterday. Like, I got up early, just in that, trying to get back into a routine to get back to work. So I woke up early, and while I'm having my morning cup of tea, my really slow morning cup of tea, I started looking, and within an hour, I'd pre-ordered something.
Nice.
Now, is that one of the games you're going to talk about?
100% one of the games I'm going to talk about.
Right. Well, should we do that then? Because I think we're going to end this episode a bit more excited than when we started.
Okay.
But at the moment, I'm I don't know whether it's just the fact that New Year's Eve is still taking its toll on me, but, or whether because of the previously mentioned, we mentioned the BGG Top 100 challenge that me and Rory are doing in the last episode, I've been looking back more than forwards over the last couple of weeks, trying to see what games are on that list. So maybe I've just been looking in the wrong direction. So, Rory, why don't you kick us off with one then?
Okay.
We'll do the usual thing. Everyone pick 3, but I have a funny feeling we're going to throw in a curveball halfway through if Rory's actually got 30 games on his list.
I do. Yeah, okay. So, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start with one that isn't actually going to come out until the end of the year. So
2025 then. Okay.
But no. So the street date is November.
Okay.
So it's not going to come out until this end. But I'm going to play a little game here, guys. I'm going to start saying words, and I want you to just buzz in when you're excited about this game as well. Okay. Right. The first word, Cthulhu.
My hand's hovering over the buzzer.
Right. The second word's Martin Wallace.
Okay. Yeah. I'm
Beep,
on the
Right.
bus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Third one, Neil Gaiman.
Hey?
And then third and final.
Well, I'm getting deja vu here. Are you just talking about... are you not aware of Studying Emerald?
I am very aware of Studying Emerald. This is essentially a reskin of Studying Emerald First Edition.
What?
Yes. It's called Cthulhu Dark Providence.
This could go very wrong.
So it's not Study of Emerald 3rd edition.
No.
It's a reprint of the first
because
edition.
first edition was really good, and then second edition they trimmed loads of bits off it. But when they trimmed stuff off it, it just became convoluted and it became clunky and messy and didn't look as cool either. So what they're doing, essentially it's the game A Study in Emerald, which is based on the Neil Gaiman short story of Cthulhu, Sherlock Holmes kind of clashed together. But it's not really A Study in Emerald because it's reskinned completely as the Cthulhu Dark Providence, which is part of the Cthulhu Death May Die series that Simon do. So if you pre-order this, just FYI, not only do you get a slight discount, but you also get some rather cool looking minis, believe it or not, from a company called Cool Mini or Not. But this is... so this is Study in Emerald. So Study in Emerald was a game that came out. It was really ahead of its time. It's a typical Martin Wallace game. So you've got some cards, you're going to be playing actions, and you'll be going around these different locations as the old ones are trying to corrupt the world, and you're trying to defeat them. And each card you play has got a series of different actions, and you do top to bottom, fairly similar to... Ankh-Morpork or Nancy Narkin.
Yeah.
So you work top to bottom. However, the really interesting thing about this game is you've got a hidden traitor mechanic as well, that some players are going to be cultists that are going to be trying to sabotage you as you work around the board, going to these different locations to defeat the old ones. Some of them are going to be empowering the old ones. It also asks you to make some really tough decisions about, you have to do some kind of nasty things. Like you create a lesser evil to defeat the greater evil, which sends all these great mixed messages about whether you're a good guy or whether you're a bad guy. I enjoyed A Study in Emerald 2nd edition, but from everything I've learned about 1st edition, which became very hard to get hold of and is very expensive, 2nd edition is just a really piss poor version of it. So I'm very excited to see this.
I have played A Study in Emerald 1st edition.
You've played 1st edition?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm quite surprised that this is coming back because it is a very bizarre game, right? It's not really a traitor mechanism. It's more of a hidden role.
Hidden role, yes.
Yeah, so it's like some of you, basically you're in 2, possibly 3 teams, depending on what happens in the game. But the thing I equated this to, you said it's a typical Martin Wallace game. This is not a typical Martin Wallace game.
Do you not think?
No. This is like Martin Wallace had a stroke one day when he was trying to design a game. Because, yes, there's card actions that do stuff, but there's so much random other stuff in it. What this game reminded me of, and Andy has got this game, and I think he's the only other person who's played it, is the original Android.
You are correct, sir.
Not Netrunner, but Android.
Android, yeah. It's mad.
They both had this feeling where someone just decided to just empty a bucket of game mechanics into a rulebook generator and a ChatGPT pulled the game together. Because there can be a zombie outbreak.
Yes, they can.
And there's a whole bunch of meeples just for zombies. There's vampires that can attack, and players can be turned into vampires.
Yep.
But those two things might never come out in the game you're playing. It just feels just completely, not random, but like there's an awful lot going on in there that is a lot to manage, which is why second edition came out, because the big complaint was this game's all over the place, it needs tidying up. And it seems that everyone complained about the second edition tidying too much up.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, like those people who decide to go clean the faces of statues and take off the top layer of marble or something.
Nice.
So I'm intrigued how close, if this is the exact copy of the original, it's going to be quite interesting, and it works best at high player count. I played it, I think, at 5 player,
I think,
and I can't imagine playing this with like less than 4, really.
I think anything with a hidden player of any kind really needs more players.
It's hidden teams is what it feels like as the original. So, but I can't come on this. So yeah, now you have me intrigued, Rory.
Yeah.
But I'm amazed. I'm amazed that this is coming back.
I'm so glad it's coming back. So it's yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So that's first game, Cthulhu Dark Providence from Simon. Pre-orders available now, hitting the shelves probably November this year. I'm going to throw Sid in the mix.
Ooh, okay.
Because you look like you weren't paying attention. You were looking at you were at the back of the class on BGG.
I was. I'll be honest with you, mate. You've caught me. I was. I'm just gonna copy your homework for a minute. Hang on. No, I've already said it. I really struggled with this, and one of the reasons was my usual place to go and find this stuff is just bereft of excitement and new information. But then I stopped and had a bit of a think. And you know what? One thing I'm looking forward to this year is one D&D.
Oh.
Right. And I knew, and I was expecting that reaction.
Whoa.
Yeah, but let me explain myself. So just for those anyone that is living under a rock somewhere.
Are you still hungover, Sid? Is that what your brain isn't working?
Well, I think I might have flushed the system now. I've had a lot of water since Hogmanay. But no, what it is it's not. So obviously, this is the revamp, the new release, the relaunch, the 5.5, the 6, whatever the hell it is, the new version of the core rules for D&D. And we're expecting it some point before June this year, I think. I think it's March or April or something. But here's the thing. I don't care about one D&D actually launching and playing it. I'm more interested in what it's going to do to the rest of the RPG market. Because I think this is going to be a really divisive set of rules. I think it's going to turn a whole lot of people onto the system and send people away from it as well.
I do find it interesting that I wouldn't say it's been feel rushed, but it's amazing how quick Pathfinder released 2.5.
Exactly that, and I'm curious as to what's going to happen in the surrounding market, the other publishers. How are they going to step up to the mark? Because what I was hoping to find when I did my little poke around the annals of the internet was loads of new announcements for about Q1, Q2 of next year, of this year even. But most folk are quiet. It's either already come out, like 2.5, Pathfinder 2.5, or it's not being talked about. And I don't know what's going on. I want to know if people are waiting to see more of what's going to happen with one D&D, what's going to happen with the VTT, and all that kind of adjacent stuff. So I'm looking forward to it, mostly because of the ripples that it's going to cause in the pond.
Yeah, the rising tide raises all ships type of thing.
That's the kind of thing. It's going to be a weird one. I mean, I'll probably end up getting a copy of it because no doubt at some point we might revisit it in some moment of weird personal punishment that I've decided to put myself through. But you know, it's going to be an interesting one.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that at all.
I wasn't expecting that.
I wasn't expecting to talk about one D&D. I wasn't expecting to be talking about it in the way I am talking about it. But here we are. It's 2024. Let's see what happens.
Right, who's next then, Sid?
Can I go next? Because I've got a link. Because you've just reminded me of an RPG that I wasn't going to talk about, and it's not on my list. Just to screw everyone up. Right, so I'm going to do a double whammy here. I'm going to talk about 2 games. at the same time. I know. I can always see Andy rolling his eyes. The gaffer's broken his own rules again.
Every time. Every time.
It'll become apparent straight away. So, board game. And this is the board game I am excited to get. And it's due. It's been delayed a smidge. I think we're originally supposed to get it in a couple of weeks, but now it's going to be more like March.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure Andy has backed this as well, which is Tainted Grail, Kings of Ruin.
I don't know what you mean.
So, I mean, we both love the original game.
Yes.
I still need to play the original campaign.
Yeah, I need to finish
beyond
it.
where I've got at the moment.
I'm about halfway through. I need to finish it.
So, stacking up another campaign game on the shelf, just, with all that free time I've got. I mean, and that's really all I can say about that. It's another campaign. It's another big box of minis and stuff. Well, I mean, not big box of minis because the minis are just character tokens, really. It's another big box of adventures, a big bound book. We mentioned Sleeping Gods as our best of the year. Tainted Grail feels like the hard version of Sleeping Gods. It's a very similar style of game.
It's not easy.
But whereas Sleeping Gods likes to hold your hand and wants you to have fun, Tainted Grail wants to kick you in the mud
Bites
and make
your
you
hand.
feel miserable. Yes. And so, yes, Ro, with your hand up.
I'm just saying, is Kings of Ruin, is it an expand alone or do you need the base game?
It's an expand alone. It's a completely new game.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
It's like a sequel, so it's going to carry on the story because I haven't seen if they've got the big monolith miniatures anymore, but you'd have to replace like 90% of the components anyway if you're doing an expansion. To be fair, so it's most of it is map tiles in the book, but Sid has just reminded me of something that got announced a few weeks back, and this has got me excited. Which is the announcement of a Tainted Grail RPG.
Yes, I saw. Ooh.
Right. See, I saw this weeks ago.
Well,
go on, tell me more. Tell me more.
I'm gonna throw in the thing that's making me really excited. So, this is going to be made by Studio Agate, which is a French publisher, who are previously known for Shadows of Estrin, which we haven't played, and I've been meaning to play for quite some time. It's like a dark fantasy book. It's really beautifully illustrated, beautiful dark story, and to be fair, the Tainted Grail Avalon setting could slot into the Shadows of Estrin quite easily.
Ooh. I remember us talking about Shadows of Estrogen, as I lovingly called it, some time ago. I thought we had played a demo of it or something.
Well, I think we played like a very brief demo at Expo 1 year, but we haven't played the proper game. Okay. I know I've got like the starter, the quick start one, which I keep meaning to do. But yes, I really liked what they did with that. They've stopped it now. They've kind of ceased work on it. It's also the people who did the Fate Forge game we played at Expo.
Mighty
the one
Boards.
we really liked. Yeah. So that's based on it's a similar team. So not much detail has been emerged. It's just been announced. And I should imagine it's coming to Kickstarter or GameFound later this year. I'll be surprised if this is a game that comes just out to be published. But from an RPG point of view, I'm really interested in that because it's ticking a lot of my boxes. That.
Well, you've made me relook at it because I looked at it a few weeks ago when it was announced. I went nah. I was just like, I've had enough fantasy RPGs. Bored. Don't want another one.
He says he's looking forward to one D&D.
Yeah, but that's because I like a good fight and a good ruckus out there in the world. It's not the game I'm interested in.
Some people just want to see the world burn.
I think there's at least two other gentlemen in this call who would be quite happy to see that world burn.
Right then, world burning aside, Mr. Lewis, why don't you tell us of a game?
Well, I think on the subject of adventuring and fantasy, I have been rather looking forward to Euthia by Steamforward Games. Now, this got quite a lot of buzz, I think, when it first came out. And according to Board Game Geek, or various bits of promotional material from Steamforge, Euthia is currently sat at something like an 8.8 on Board Game Geek, which is not to be sniffed at.
No.
So I backed it.
No, this is the reprint.
It is the reprint, yeah. So they've kind of bundled a load of all the expansions, I think, from the original campaigns into the base box and done it at quite a nice, reasonable price, actually, until you start adding things on like I am prone to do. But it is a kind of scenario-based fantasy It's not an RPG, but it's an adventure game. So it's kind of reminiscent of some of the stuff we played a couple of years ago. You know, in those books that open up, that one we played with Paul Grogan online. I think, Sid, you were involved in that one, weren't you? And I can't remember what it's called now.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And there was a spat of them a couple of years ago where, you know, you play a scenario and it has an unfolding tale. You then sort of tear all that down, then you set the next one up and go through that. And I think it's a bit like that. But there's miniatures. It's all very colourful and very pretty, and the sort of magic and mayhem and all that kind of stuff. So, it does seem to tick quite a few of the boxes we like. It's not, as far as I can tell, quite a dungeon crawler, but it certainly has elements of that.
So, hang on, just you're sort of talking about like a Gloomhaven-esque story, but with a RPG character development mechanic?
Are you sure, Mr. Lewis?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not at all.
And this does not look even remotely like what you just described.
Well, no, it's apparent. Well, according to the blurb, and as I say, I've gone in kind of blind to this. According to the blurb, it is a scenario-based game. So I am expanding in my head somewhat as to how this will work. But there is character development, there is unique player, and so it's almost like an asymmetric game in the sense that every character is very, very different. But it is a scenario, and there are bosses, and there's modular maps, and various other bits and bobs, so it all looks very, very replayable. Beyond that, I don't know anything else.
It looks a lot more kind of Descent.
Well, no, because that's a dungeon crawler. I don't think this is, because you get the map, and that's it.
It's a tile. It's a growing map, evolving tile. Put the
so
tile
perhaps
down
more
as the
like
map goes.
Mansions of Middle Earth, maybe.
I think we're going to have to wait and see, because I'm looking at this and I'm no idea what this game is.
No, neither do I. That's
well, there you go. Polyhedron Collider, coming to the forefront of information provision. Now, boys, let's recommend the game purely on the fact that Andy's backed it on a whim.
Yeah, are we suggesting that Andy's just gone balls deep on this campaign without actually knowing what the game is?
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Well, what triggered you to do that then? That's probably the more interesting.
I'd heard good things about it. 2, it has some very lovely miniatures. 3, it's very pretty. And 4, it's in a big box. So, what more do you want?
Okay. I look forward to you getting it.
He's not wrong. It's reviewed quite well on BGG. Its bell curve is maxing on the 10, so it's not doing too bad.
Yeah. See. It's and it's apparently on its way currently as I speak. So I might even have it within the next week, or probably when I'm in Japan. So let's sit outside getting soggy in the rain for 3 weeks. Fantastic. But yes, it's it looks interesting. So there you go. I am genuinely quite excited about Euthia because it is a mystery.
Okay,
all right. Nice.
Who's next?
I think you've just nominated yourself, Mr. Summers.
There you go.
All right. I'm going to talk about, since we're on a fantasy bend at the moment, I'm going to talk about a fantasy worker placement city builder from Sinister Fish Games, designed with art by Harken Gardner. And it's called Yonder.
That's a brewery.
Yonder is a brewery.
Very nice brewery.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I'll take your word for it. Well, let's hope it's also a very nice game. I think it's fair to say that we quite like the games from Sinister Fish, and we quite like the games from Harken Gardner. Villagers, Streets, and Moon. I mean, Moon in particular. Moon and Villagers are bloody brilliant, I think. And this is the next one. So it's an asymmetric worker placement game where you're going to be building a city, engine builder. It's got there's not a lot of information out about it at the moment, but from what I've read on BGG, it's got a lot of words that I like involved in the description. I know it's going to be coming to...
like banana.
Like cakes.
Splendiferous.
Moist.
Right. Thanks, guys. Paint a lovely picture of the type of person I am. But it's coming to Kickstarter in early June, so it will be available to demo at the UK Games Expo as well. I did check in with Dave about that. I'm really excited to see this and learn more about this game. It's not going to come in the same style box, so this is a normal big box game. Mm-hmm. The standard 30 by 8. Yeah, Yonder. Brilliant. Why not? Let's get in.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm going to bounce it to Sid. I'm going to go clockwise round my screen. I like it.
We got to stay in the order now, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
I think we've set the order. We've been round one, so.
Ooh.
Well, I've got a bit of a choice here. Where am I going to go? I'm going to stick with the RPGs for a moment because that seems to be where I've started. I was going to talk about Mothership, but I don't see the point, given that we spoke about it last year and I still don't have it.
Not bitter.
No, I'm not. No,
It'll be 2 years later. It'll be fine.
just resign myself to it. I'll get it at some point. But Mothership is a pamphlet type based RPG. Quite a lot of it. It's quite low on the rules and things like that, right? It's quite a straightforward game. And in my little rummage around the internet earlier, I did find another game which just caught my attention. Partly because it's a pamphlet based game, but partly it's covered in 8-bit art.
Ooh.
And it's called Heroes of Cerulia. And it's by Black Fisk Publishing. I think they're Swedish.
I think I've heard of this, but I don't know where.
Well, I don't.
The book looks like a NES cartridge.
Awesome.
Exactly. That's what drew me to this, right? And I don't know much about it, okay? I haven't really found out. There's not much info out there on it, as far as I can tell. There is a downloadable kind of quick start guide thing, Bob, but I haven't poked it hard. But it's like a little make your own dungeon, kind of old school Zork kind of.
It looks very Zelda.
Yeah, very Zelda.
Very, very Zelda.
It just had a feel about it. You know, it's you've got hearts for your health, and you kill baddies, and heroes knock health off, hearts off the baddies. It's got all of those old school Zelda type Zork, all those ones mechanics that we grew up with, wrapped up in exactly the format that we wanted to be wrapped up in. And it's a little pamphlet, really rules light, flash to bang game.
The character sheet even has your stats in a little Triforce.
Yeah, it's pretty.
There's only 3 stats.
That's
3
good.
stats. It uses video game logic, right? No explanation for why you get power-ups in a random pot sat in the middle of a screen somewhere. Just because that's where we're going to put the money in the power-ups, right?
Nice.
I don't know what else I want to say about it. I was drawn to it by the format it was presented in, by the artwork, and by this. It made me smile.
It does look awesome, actually. To be fair,
It does look very, very cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this is actually going to be out in June as well.
It's actually
Kickstarter's
finished, not long away.
June
Kickstarter's
23,
finished, has it?
It has, yeah.
Yeah.
it was due to deliver in June 23, but presumably, even if it has
that's maybe why we've heard about it. Maybe one of us fell across it earlier on, but whatever it is, I've been reminded of it today, and I like what I see, and I want it.
It does look interesting. Yeah, I might jump on that bus with you, mate. That sounds really.
It's all right. There's plenty of seat on this bus, mate.
Yeah, that does look cool.
Oh, good find, Sid. That does look really interesting.
Oh, man. And on that note, I shall punt it on to the gaffer.
So, back to board games. I am awaiting my delivery of Arcs by Leader Games.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait for you to get this.
I didn't think I thought you'd be more impressed about this. So, this is a space area control game.
Uh-huh.
Not, as far as I can work out, as not asynchronous. I keep using asynchronous, but I mean asymmetric. I always make this mistake. It's becoming a bit of a trait of mine. Not as asymmetric as Leader Games' other games, but some interesting mechanics, largely revolving trick-taking to control actions in the game. So the cards you play have the icons of the actions you want to take on them, and there is a leader who has initiative who plays the first card, and everyone else has to either do like a trick-taking follow suit or flip suit kind of system to take their actions.
Ooh.
And the value of the card determines who's going to go first next turn, but the higher the value of the card, the less actions you get.
Wow, okay.
So, really intriguing method by which it does very quick combat, apparently, just resolved by a couple of simple dice rolls. And some very quick card action. Looks I'm not going to say it looks pretty. It looks, and this sounds almost detrimental, but it looks very functional. But it makes it look kind of lo-fi, sci-fi in the same way, which actually works. It's got the same artist as most of other
Kyle Ferret games.
Yeah. Now, one thing I did wrong with this is I didn't back the full game. I only backed the base game.
Oh,
and because it came with the major part of the game came with loads of meeples I didn't really fancy, miniatures, and came with a campaign system. And I thought, I've got enough campaign games, I don't want to play it. And I found out the campaign system was only 3 games long. So after I backed it, and I think the backer kit's shut now. So we'll only ever be playing the proper one-player game,
well, having said that, Leader Games do something that I absolutely bloody love on crowdfunders, is that they don't do Kickstarter exclusives. Everything that was on Kickstarter you can actually still get for this game. You were just going to pay slightly more.
Yeah,
they go to Kickstarter or to crowdfunding, and if you back it, you get it at a better value. So the campaign's still 100% available for you, Steve, or for us, should I say?
Right.
Via Steve,
but via Steve.
No, I think this is running a bit later than planned. We should have had it by now, but I'm expecting this really middle of the year because it's not quite gone into production yet. And of course, Chinese New Year is about to hit.
Oh, yeah.
So I can imagine we're not going to get this
March.
until middle end. I reckon June by the time it's actually shipped out to everyone.
June? Wow, okay.
I reckon by the time you've actually, because they've sent the files to the printers.
Oh, right. So it's not been produced yet. So it's still got to be right.
Yes.
June.
Yeah.
June.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. I accept your revised answer.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, and obviously Rory is as well. I can't say much more about it because it looks like one of those games where you've got to play to understand it. Because on paper these mechanics sound interesting, but I don't know how they're going to work. But it looks like it'll be something different, and if it's half as good as Ahoy, that'll be all right.
It will be indeed.
Have you played Oath yet, Steve?
I have not.
Okay, we'll add that to the list because that's bloody fantastic. And again, it's one of those that on paper you're like, how do these rules work? And I had to play it twice before it all clicked, and I just went, oh my god, that's so cool. That's so good.
I've still got to play my copy.
Yeah, very good. Again, and it's a campaigny game.
Yeah. Just don't get it confused with Parks, because that's a very different game, and Rory and I really love that game.
I think I'd spot the difference.
Right then, Mr. Lewis, what game are you looking forward to then?
Well,
that isn't Parks.
at the I'm going to say opposite end of the spectrum. Probably not, actually, given the style of game. And you mentioned the term functional. I am obviously looking forward to the next Vital Lacerda game. Inventions, Evolution of Ideas. Again, Eagle Griffin, Superstar Tag Team, tool artwork, etc., etc. So this is all about the sort of major inventions through history, score points for starting the invention, promoting it, and eventually, making it ubiquitous throughout society. So it's not, I think, too dissimilar in theory, I think, to Weather Machine, in that you start doing one thing to create another thing to create another thing. It's typical Euro stuff, you build on one thing, but of course it's got that Lacerda twist that makes it probably 10 times more complicated than you might want. But I'm now on that bus. I'm riding that to the Terminus. I've got all the other Lacerda games by Eagle Griffin, so this is kind of a mandatory back to me. But I really enjoy Lacerda's games, as you know. They do seem to click with me. Although Weather Machine I'm lousy at. I really enjoy it, but I'm really bad at it. But I really like the way the games work. I like Tool's artwork as well. They're always really well made, well explained, great value. Not cheap, but good value for what you get. Especially through the Kickstarter, because you usually get an extra sort of lump of upgraded components and stuff for the same money, or less, in fact. Because I think Weather Machine, I think it was £100 and something when it's on the Kickstarter, and it's now you're buying it at shops for like 150, which is insane. So yeah, there's a considerable discount doing through Kickstarter, so it's a good reason to do it. But yeah, no, I'm just really really excited about that. I always am about the Lacerda games, so I'm sure, having played one, well, actually many of them, this will probably slap on like a comfortable pair of pants.
Nice.
It looks pretty.
It does.
I mean, no idea what's going on. I mean, but it looks pretty. There's an interesting hex board thing here going on with little hex progress trays, which, yeah. No idea what any of it means, no doubt. Even if I play the game, it'll be halfway through the game before I understand what it all means.
Kanban!
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't even understand Kanban after I finished.
No, it's all right. Genuinely, it took me about 3 plays of Kanban EV before I really understood what the hell was going on. But anyway, so this is Inventions by Vital Lacerda, Eagle Griffin, artwork by Ian O'Toole, and I'm assuming rulebook by Paul Grogan. But I may be wrong on that one. I don't know. But it's at least 3 of the 4 in the tag team, so it's going to be good. Which means we now have to return to Mr. Summers for his 3rd game.
For my 3rd game, well, I'm going to go in for a 2.5 game because I'm going to break the rules. But that's mainly because I can very easily segue into this one because you've just said the name of the game in your spiel about Inventions. So I'm going to very briefly talk about Terminus.
Oh, nice.
From Inside Up Games, which is going to be out this year. It came to Kickstarter last year. It's going to be released, available from March 24. And it's a rondel route building game about building a subway system. Yeah, right. Yeah, love rondel. But equally, another thing that really drew me to this game that I like about is Vital Lacerda himself said it's a heavy, tight game with a lot of options, filled with difficult decisions.
Ooh, hello.
So if Vital Lacerda is saying a game is heavy, tight, with a lot of options, I think this game's probably worth looking at.
Certainly.
But that's not actually the game I'm talking about. That's my 2.5. Now for my 3rd proper option game, I couldn't do a best, most anticipated games of the year without talking about one of my new favourite designers, Stefan Feld, and his new game this year, Civolution. Andy hanging his head in shame. Civolution. It's apparently it's going to be his heaviest game to date. It is a Euro style 4X game featuring it's kind of dice based actions, and these, as you roll them, they're going to give you options to these various different actions. It's calculated there's going to be 43 different potential actions you can take in each turn. But the idea of this game, the theme, I think, is brilliant as well. You essentially play a god, and you are building a civilization, but not only the civilization, but you're also building the species. So you're going to make interesting decisions about whether you want them to work out how to create fire, or whether you're going to give them wings or the ability to breathe underwater, as opposed to develop the wheel. And you're going to be creating this civilization and this species and making decisions between whether you want them to advance technologically or anthropologically. And that's going to drive the game forward. And it's a bit different. Again, it's a 4X game, so there is going to be some actual player interaction, maybe going to starting fights and stuff like that. It sounds really interesting, despite having a really rubbish name.
Yes. It sounds like Spore, the board game. I don't know if you remember Spore.
I remember Spore, yeah.
Yes.
That's a great show, yeah. Yeah.
Although apparently Spore itself was shit. I never played it myself, but
yeah. But yeah,
apparently it wasn't great.
That's the one I'm looking for. From Deep Print Games, Stefan Feld, Civolution. No idea when it's out, but it's going to be out at some point this year, and I'm going to pick it up.
I'll give it another poke. It sounds interesting. I'll give you that, even if the designer is questionable in my eyes. But but then again, to be fair, I do like Castles of Burgundy. That's a really good game. So he's not entirely on the blacklist. Flirting with it,
Stefan Feld flirting with blacklist. Okay.
Oh, bloody hell.
And Andy's just picking a fight. That's all he's doing. Go on, Sid. Before Andy and I get into it,
we'll call the UN to get involved.
The UN, mate. If I'm being called the UN, the world's. Right. So I'm gonna shamelessly steal a bit of Rory's homework, and also call him out on a correction, because. Was this the little test to see whether we were actually going to read what you'd written or not?
Okay, what are you talking about?
Well, no, I'm going to talk about Horror on the Orient Express, the board game, which is from Chaosium.
Yeah.
Who are going to be awfully busy this year from the looks of it. Alongside this, they're bringing out the new Pendragon and various other things as well. So it'll be an interesting year from them. But this is the Call of Cthulhu range, license, whatever it is these days.
Yes, Horror on the Orient Express is a campaign for Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, it is indeed. This is the board game imagining of that TTRPG campaign.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
It's really interesting. Now, I think I'll get you lot interested by the people that are working on it. Because it's Adam Kopinski.
Hello.
Hi, Adam.
There you go, you see. So now we've got Call of Cthulhu and Kopinski. Steve's now soiled himself, much like I did earlier.
Yeah.
I've already gone on to, while you've been talking, I've gone onto the Kickstarter page and clicked notify me of launch.
Oh, I'm ahead of you on that, Mr. Tudor. But there's not much around on this. And the reason I've got to shamelessly admit that this may be a forfeit choice, despite it being on Rory's homework gaffer. That's where I got it from. It's Rory's fault. This is not actually going to release till 2025.
Yeah, it's more of a Kickstarter this year. Now, have you actually looked at pictures and videos of this? Because this was apparently at Gen Con.
It was at Gen Con and it's been at Essen.
Yeah, and interestingly, I ended up speaking to the publishers randomly about this, and then they were like, are you going to come see us at Gen Con? It's like, no, because I live in the UK and I can't afford to come to Gen Con. But yeah, it's got a little cardboard train with little cardboard carriages. It's all little 3D. You've got little coffins that go over and hide the dice.
No, they're not tied to dice. You get little passengers. The passengers are little dice.
Oh, they're the passengers.
And each of the face of the dice is like whether the passenger's sane, insane, sleeping, all various states of stuff. And if you put the coffin on top, that marks a dead passenger, Steve. And you're only allowed 7 dead passengers before everything goes to rat shit and you die. Right? But this game, it's got everything I want in it, Rory. Honestly, this when you pinged me earlier and said, have a look at this, right? And this is up your street, you read me down to the letter.
Yeah.
Right? You've got player characters, which have all got skills and actions that they can use and stamina and all the insanity, all the classic Call of Cthulhu stuff. But ultimately, what you're trying to do is you're trying to not die, right? They can sugarcoat it any way they want, but really, you're going to not die. So you can get eaten by monsters, you can run out of turns, you can go insane, right? So there's all those sorts of ways. All the while you're trying not to have one of those things happen to you, you're trying to root out the cultists that are on the train, right? So the story, same as the original campaign, really, is that a bunch of cultists have managed to pull the Orient Express from the Earth into the Dreamlands realm. Right, Dreamland's realm is where all sorts of bad shit happen to you in Cthulhu. Yeah, it's not a nice place to be. It's full of monsters and weird stuff. And because of that, it can be really open and really kind of imaginative with all the world around it. So whilst you're doing that, you're trying to find the cultists that are on the train. And to find the cultists that are on the train, you need to interrogate passengers. And they give you clues to work out who the cultists might be.
How do you do that in a board game?
Well, tell you what, the mechanism by which you do it is absolutely genius. So what you've got is you've got 6 potential cultists, or 6 potential people, NPCs, who could be a cultist. And you can have 1 or 6. And it's all random. And what you do is you place 6 kind of token tiles onto each of these NPCs. And it's from what I can work out, it's a random draw of those 6 tiles for each cultist, but it's from a defined kind of a set. So in that, when you randomly allocate those, you will essentially create cultists randomly for each game, and it could be 1 to 6, depending on what the combination of those 6 tiles is on that board. So there's like one tile which is guaranteed to be a cultist. If that cultist if one of those NPCs has it, they are the cultist regardless of what their rest of their draw is. On other tiles, you might have to have 2 or 3 different combinations. So like you'd need a ticket to Constantinople and something else together would equate to a cultist. Or if one of these people has 4 of these kind of pinky coloured tiles in this case, they would become a cultist. So that's how they're doing it. So to work out which one of those is the cultist, what you have to do is you have to speak to the different passengers. And by speaking to the passengers, which is an action, you get information. You can turn over one of those tiles.
Right, so they validate pieces of the clue.
They validate pieces of the clue. And then alongside, you already know, as far as I can tell, what the total draw of those tiles were. So you know there's 1 of this tile and 3 of that tile and 4 of that tile, etc. So you can start eliminating who different people are based on what you can see and what you can't yet see. So it's and that's just part of the game.
Yeah. Okay. Right? I really like the sound of this even more so now.
The interrogation of passengers stuff is a push your luck mechanic. Oh. And you're drawing tokens out of a bag and trying to find a pair. And if you push too far, you screw it up. The passenger might get a huff and not speak to you. Stuff like that.
That's cool.
Right? So that's the game. As we say, it's launching Kickstarter this year, so I still think it counts, boss, because it's a 2024 game, and frankly, as soon as it comes out, I'm hitting the buy button on it. We won't get it till 2025, but it just looks amazing. I mean, the fact that there is a little train as well, it's like an actual train. I hope that stays in.
I think it's
with different carriages.
Too much of that,
I think it'll stay in. But the rest of it just looks magic, and it's the Call of Cthulhu mythos and everything else like that. And Chaos Team have done that so well over the years that I'd struggle to see how this game can't be good given who's involved.
Yeah.
So, that's. I think we just got to look this one up as soon as it comes out.
Steve.
Ooh,
your third final
I'm going to struggle here, so I'm going to mention a couple of games because I don't quite know what to talk about. Now, I can't talk about Warcrow. We didn't get it. We mentioned it in last year's podcast. So that's a Manchester Madness style app-led dungeon crawler. Really looking forward to that. I feel as if I should mention Avalon, the Riven Vale, but I don't know anything about it. All we know is it is an area control game set in Arthurian legends and is coming from Shadowborn Games, who are the makers of Oathsworn. And it's worth mentioning because Oathsworn was awesome, and Oathsworn was just got into the BGT Top 100. So it feels like, their next game has got a lot to live up to. Yeah. So I should imagine that's going to hit Kickstarter later in the year. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we'll see that at Games Expo, because they've already started making murmurings. So that's probably the time that Oathsworn was announced the world fully at Expo and got everyone excited then. So I'm kind of at a bit of a loss here about what to talk about. And so I'm going to go for a bit of a tried and tested one. Something dependable, a nice bedrock, which is Inventors of the South Tigris.
Yeah, boy.
From Garp Hill Games. Now, we have just not long received the second in the South Tigris games, which is Scholars of the South Tigris. Played a couple of games of that. And this is looking like a similar kind of game. It's a third game in that series. So they're all independent games based on similar mechanics and similar themes, which are based on the cardinal points of the compass, with the West Kingdom and North Sea games previously coming out. So Shem Phillips basically does one of these a year. So this is the third one in the South Tigris series. I can imagine the East series will be coming out 2025.
Yes.
And what the beauty about Shem Phillips and Garp Hill Games is the Kickstarter will launch in like January, February, and we'll get it November, December. None of this 3 years waiting for an RPG for a game like we have been in the past.
No, they're really reliable. They're very good for that.
He's got the process sorted.
Yeah.
So there is a similarity in theme. There's influencing sections of the board. It's dice placement. Other than that, don't really know much about the mechanics and don't really care. I'm backing it anyway because I have not been disappointed with a game since Raiders of the North Sea, which was like 7 games ago. So Yeah, as far as I can see, they're dependable. Now, it could be a stinker. We never know. But quite frankly, I'm very happy with all the Garphill games I've played. And so this will be another one that I'll be adding to my collection.
Well, you haven't played Shipwrights yet, have you?
Which I've raised my hand for that question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't played Shipwrights. I have... in fact, I got on this bus with the West Kingdom games.
Yeah.
So I played the North Sea games after I'd started getting the West Kingdom games, and I absolutely love all the West Kingdom games. But yes, the North Sea games are the ones I don't like the most. I have an issue with Raiders. I need to play Explorers again. Now I know how to play it.
Yes.
And Shipwrights is the one where a lot of people reckon is rubbish and is actually coming out again this year, isn't it?
They're doing a reprint and a rebuild and a redesign because apparently it was absolutely awful.
Yeah, so who knows about that? Because I've only recently started enjoying my discovery of these, the Shem Phillips Garphill games here. And obviously the Shipwrights of the North Sea Redo is meant to be out February this year.
Is it now? I
think that's right, yeah, because it was on Kickstarter about 9 months ago, so that would make sense, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So are you backed that, Andy? Are we going to be able
I
to
haven't,
play
no, because I wasn't that interested in it, because we already have the original, but Alora has played it and has said, and I quote, "It's not a nice experience."
Okay.
But she is interested in playing the new one. I don't know whether she backed it or not. I haven't, but she might have done. But she is interested in getting it and playing it.
Okay, yeah, because I'm really interested to see more of this. Because we played Scholars the other day. I played Architects over the summer, and I've really, really liked them and want to play more of them. So I'm really interested to see. I'm interested to see the difference between Shipwrights and Shipwrights 2, to be honest, as well. Although, from what I understand from Board Game Geek, it's an entirely new game.
Yes.
It just shares thematically, it's the same, but mechanically, it's completely different.
Yeah, the original has a lot of take that in it, and from what Laura's been saying, there's just too much of it. It's almost like Munchkin, that you get anywhere near close to the game and you just become a target and you're just going to get bullied. So it just becomes not a nice experience, is what she said. But as I say, I haven't played it, so I don't know. I wonder if they're going to make it more in line with the other games where there's a lot more meeple placement.
That is exactly what it is said. It's rebuilt to create an experience much more in line with what fans of Garphill games have come to expect.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're going to redo the other two then. I doubt they'll do Raiders, because that was reasonably well received, even though Steve and I have issues with it. And Explorers was pretty fun, so I doubt they'll redo that as well. But to me, the kind of like the collectionist in me looks at that and goes, "It's not quite right because that box will be bigger and the other two are smaller and it won't fit." So I'll just have issues. So Laura wants to get rid of the original Shipwrights. I'm like, "No, you can't. It's part of the collection now." But she says rubbish. I said, "It doesn't matter. We'll never play it. Doesn't matter. It's a collection."
So the last game then?
Well, you say the last game.
You still got 27 left on your list, Rory.
We've ticked off a few of them.
A few.
I could wrap up a few as honourable mentions because we have discussed them on previous podcasts as well.
I was going to mention as my 2.5 game, the one we just talked about. So you've done me a favour there, Steve. So that's fine. You've got away with that. But I am going to briefly mention Dawn of Madness, which I've been waiting for forever. It seems to be persistently delayed, but I'm not going to talk about any more of that because Deep Madness was a few years ago now. Dawn of Madness is basically a prequel with equally weird-ass miniatures, but a really good, sort of solid story, and I expect it's going to be just as hard. But what I am most interested in, of the rest of what I've got, is The Queen's Dilemma, which is the sequel to The King's Dilemma, which I know for a fact Steve still has in Shrink, which we do need to play. Now, I've played The King's Dilemma before, and really, really enjoyed it. So I played with 4 other friends I've got here in Bewdley. We had a sort of Monday night session for a little while, and we played through the whole campaign. But you could happily play through the campaign, multiple times because the story is that branching and there's that many different outcomes depending on how people vote and what they do, that, playing a second game will not spoil it in any way, because you have no idea the way it's going to go. So there's going to be stuff that comes out that I've never seen before. So the Queen's Dilemma is a building upon this. So they've added a bit more spice to it. There's a bit more. There's a completely new campaign, but you can improve your characters as well as the advance the story. Whereas in the King's Dilemma, you didn't really change your house. You achieved goals and targets and some points, but you didn't actually change the way that your character works, which seems to be the way in Queen's Dilemma. Now, it was on Kickstarter probably about a year ago now, I think. So I think it's due this year. So I am really quite excited to play that. So one of the people who I played it with here in Bewdley has backed it. So we're probably going to set that game up at some point later this year. So I shall report back once we are into the campaign as to how well it does. But I am particularly excited because I thought King's Dilemma was bloody brilliant, an absolutely superb game.
Right. How have we discussed 14 games in less than an hour?
Because we're efficient.
But we're never this efficient.
We didn't have much pre-game chat, that's why.
No, that's because
we went straight into it. We went straight into it.
You were too excited about my excitement, weren't you? That was it. Yeah.
We were. Now, there is one more thing we need to discuss. And this is the silly quest that you two have put yourselves on. Now, how are you going to actually do this?
Are you talking about our BGG Top 100 challenge?
I am indeed, yes.
With difficulty is what we're going to do.
Okay, now we already know that.
Well, we've locked in. So we're recording this on the 2nd of January.
Mm-hmm.
So we have locked in the Top 100 now, and we've put is it the Guild has got a post
It's on the
on
Guild.
It's
on the Guild, and it's on the Facebook, and it's on the Polyhedron Collider page on Board Game Geek as well.
Right.
Yeah, so
the blog.
The blog, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got our 100 games, and it's the list moves more than I thought it did, actually, because the list actually changed on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Which was quite surprising. So number 100 changed. Raiders of the North Sea came into the top 100 and knocked Tricerian out of the top 100 at the very last
Blasphemy!
Yeah, I thought you'd be upset with that one, Andy. I was upset because I wanted to play Tricerian over Raiders.
Definitely, Tricerian's way better.
We're going to have to set some kind of ground rules, but there's some adaptations. Like, another thing is there's duplications, and the first thing I've thought about as an issue is duplications.
Yeah.
There are 4 games, or is it 3 games?
I think it's 4.
Where there's 2 versions of each game, which are
Agricola, Eclipse, Great Western Trail,
and one we haven't got any version of, which is the
Crew
Civilization game.
Oh, Through the Ages.
Through the Ages, yeah. So that's 4 games, which there's 2 versions of.
Wow, okay.
Now, yeah, which I think is bizarre. It's just the way Board Game Geek works, in which it puts every single new version as a different entry on there. So, straight away, we're not going to do those 4 twice. Yeah, we're not going to hunt down 2 versions of Agricola and 2 versions of Eclipse, especially when we know, Andy, you've got a version of Eclipse sitting on your shelf that it just needs to be played.
It does indeed.
To be played.
I agree. I've not played it for years.
Yeah. So they're straight away, we can't do 100 games, there's 96. And I'm just wondering there, do we add in some substitutions? Do we say if a new game...
Tricerian. It's near 100, it's close enough.
I was thinking more, do we keep an eye on what games come into the top 100 and try and play them as well?
I mean, not to be the voice of reason here.
Oh my God.
Oh, what have we come to?
I'd see 96 as a get out of jail card. Right? Adding stuff back in right now on day 2 of the year, right? It's madness.
It is, to be fair. It's more the fact that I'm just excited if something new comes out and interesting. Do we need to keep on top of it? But yeah, we've also got to decide what we're doing about some of these ridiculous...
the Legacy and the campaign games.
Legacy and campaign, because just in the top 10, you've got Pandemic Legacy Season 1, Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. That's just in the top 10. Now, we are not going to play Gloomhaven from beginning to end, and Jaws of the Lion from beginning to end.
And Frosthaven, and Pandemic Legacy 0, 1, and 2, and Oathsworn.
And Kingdom Death Monster, and Sleeping Gods.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so there's...
And Tainted Grail.
Oh, yeah. So for those, we're just going to play a session a mission, a scenario.
Or one evening and see how far we get.
We'll do a day and we'll just bash out as many as we can. So we're going to aim to play as much of it as possible. And I suppose it's going to be testament. If it's really good, we're not going to want to put it away. We're going to want to carry on that campaign. And I suppose the drive of how good that game is going to propel us into wanting to play that more. And if that means that Steve and I have got to cram, on December 18th next year, then so be it.
Also, a couple of things like there are a couple of asymmetric games. I nearly said asynchronous again. There's a couple of asymmetric games. I think with some of them, we can play 2 games. With some of them, we're going to have to just call one. For instance, Star Wars Rebellion and War of the Ring. They're long games. So playing both sides, get a taster, maybe not. However, playing Netrunner, you can play around a Netrunner in 20 minutes. It's worth playing both sides. The runner and the corp, just to get a taste of both.
Very true.
So just for clarification, it's about playing the game, not finishing the game.
It's about experiencing it. It's part of this is it's an interesting challenge because of what's there. It's revisiting a lot of games. I think I've worked out I've played 59 of those 100 games already, and I own about 40 of them, I think. And Andy owns about 40 to 50, and there's only a small overlap. There's actually quite a few games that Andy owns that I don't.
Yeah, I think there's about 35 games that we do not own between us at all.
Now, part of me was like, I think this is worth doing because we're here spouting our knowledge about board games, and yet we have not played a sizable chunk of what is considered to be the best games at this moment in time.
Yeah,
fair.
So part of it is a bit of an education.
Yeah.
To see to relearn some of these. Some of it is like going back and actually playing some of these old games and going, actually, yeah, that's a bloody good game and needs talking about and needs revisiting proper. Part of it's just because I like to do graphs. That means I can do a little graph.
Well, who doesn't like a good graph?
And a table.
Have you seen the graph I've done on the front page of the sheets, Steve?
Oh, no, I have not. He's done a graph. Has he got a pivot table?
No, I haven't done a pivot table.
Oh, no,
but what I've done...
Table's the devil's
Sid's
work.
already disappointed.
I'm sad.
On the progress page, really geeky, it's the Board Game Geek logo cut out as a PNG, right? So as we fill in the games, as we tick it off, it actually fills up with the correct orange.
Oh, wow.
Oh, dear.
God.
You really have had nothing to do today, have you?
I did that yesterday.
Deary me. Obviously not started yet because I'm far too tired today from someone feeding me beer and snacks.
Oh, yeah, we really forced it down your throat, didn't we?
Yeah, you did. You did.
Kicking and screaming you were.
Oh,
You practically held me down and poured that 20-year-old single malt down my neck.
Oh, yeah, I know. That was a nightmare, that was, wasn't it? Oh, no, Andy, I couldn't possibly. Oh, all right, then.
You're such a trooper, Steve.
I know. What a hero.
Yeah.
He's the hero we deserve.
Indeed. And the hero we all need.
But now, Andy, I have another dilemma with this.
Oh, no. There we go.
Right? Because King Death Monster's on this list.
Yes.
Oathsworn's on this list. Mansion of Madness is on this list, isn't it?
Yes.
And Blood Rage is on this list. All games was I thinking I was going to pick the miniatures for.
But you haven't.
Well, I've painted enough for Kingdom Death to play a few games. I reckon we'd easily got enough miniatures for an evening's gaming of Kingdom Death.
Yep.
Although I was working on the butcher today and I did nearly throw him out the window. I don't know how much that was due to me being tired and how much due to me being just ridiculous fiddly details on there that my brushes were just not activating or going anywhere near. But yeah, do I paint Oathsworn before we play? Do I try and paint Blood Rage before we play? I think the answer is going to be no, because otherwise we'll never play the damn things. But there's a secondary challenge here in the background.
That's true, yes. Paint as many things as you can. My goal this year, actually, painting-wise, is to finish painting Lord of the Rings, Journeys of Middle-earth, and Imperial Assault, because I've got them fully expanded, so there's quite a lot going on here. Now, I have done a sizable chunk of both of them, in the sense that I've done the base box and a bit more of Lord of the Rings, and I've got up to about wave 6, I think it is, finished of of Imperial Assault. I think it's wave 6. So that's of 11 waves, I might add. So there's quite a lot done, but there's still quite a long way to go. So I am setting myself that challenge this year to try and get them finished, which we'll see. Fortunately, I don't have that many stormtroopers left to paint, so which is good. I think you're right.
Before we go, I just want to give an announcement that there's the To Boldly game. So the UK Games Expo has teamed up with the National Space Centre here in the UK, and they've got a mini Games Expo essentially at the end of January. So if you are in the UK, if you live around Leicester and fancy a day out at the Space Centre, pop along to that. I might try and wangle along to get along on the Saturday, actually. Apparently your ticket covers you access to the Space Centre, which you can then upgrade to free for an annual pass, and to the To Boldly game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's a really good day out as well.
It's a really good day out, yeah. You have to pay a little bit more if you want to do the planetarium exhibition thing.
Planetarium's amazing, though.
Yeah.
It is amazing, yeah. I think in the next episode, we're potentially going to be talking about Scholars of the South Tigris.
Yes.
Because we've all been, we've some of us have played that all now, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
And we might also talk about games that change drastically between demos and the finished product. Because
I can't help feel like you have something in mind already for that one.
I do. And Steve's face was out of camera shot when I mentioned that, so I think he knows what we're talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about, yes.
I'm guessing this has gone from demo to being pretty good to playing actual game, which is less good.
They won't be flattering about it.
No, I can see a turd rapidly heading towards in our direction.
It's going to be an interesting point of discussion.
Okay.
But also our mailbag's empty, listener. Dear listener, our mailbag is empty. So if you've got any questions, do reach out to us across the social medias on Board Game Geek Guild. Was at 2726 to ask us your questions so we can fill it up for next time.
So it only leaves me to say then, thank you very much for listening. We've been Polyhedron Collider. We'll be back soon with a normal episode.
If there is such a thing.
Then, you can find us all over the internet. Just look for Polyhedron Collider. Until then, happy gaming.
Tatty bye. And a happy new year.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.